My book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults, is not just the story of my own camp, but is the story of many camps all over the world who are promoting the social and emotional growth of kids through intentional strategies. This bonus episode is a recording of one of my Happy Campers interviews with a camp director from one of the day and resident camps who were in my series that was originally aired on Facebook Live and is also available in video form on my website at sunshine-parenting.com. Enjoy this conversation with a camp director who runs an amazing program. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. We are live in this Happy Campers interview, and I'm having so much fun with this interview series. I'm talking with camp directors from both day and resident camps, and we're talking about the amazing social and emotional growth and character traits that kids develop at summer camp. And today I have with me Clay Colvig from Colvig Silver Camps. Welcome, Clay.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
So Clay, why don't you start? Well, first of all, if anybody was waiting for us to start, just once again, we had some minor technical issues, which seems to happen a lot with camp directors. And I think especially with Clay, who's a real backpacker, outdoorsy guy, we're hoping that he's not going to accidentally touch something on his device and lose him. But if he does, we'll come back. So anyway, Clay, we know that that technology was not what you were most interested in. What is it that has tell us about yourself and what you're interested in and how you got involved in camp?
Well, I kind of grew up at camp. My parents started our program in 1969 when I was 3. So some number between 40 and 50 summers I've been at camp. So it's always been a part of my life. It's kind of who I am, though I took time to explore if there were other things that I needed to do. Did some traveling abroad and got a physics degree and studied architecture for a master's. Kind of tied all those things together when I decided to come back. So I've been the director here for 20 years now.
So wait, go back on that. You got your degree in architecture? I didn't even know that.
My master's is in architecture. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's probably helpful for fixing things and creating new things at camp, I'm guessing.
In answer to my mother's question, what are you going to do with your architecture degree? When I wanted to come back to camp, I said I'm going to design a great camp. So.
And you have done that. Okay, so Clay, just a reminder, you're going to need to speak up so that we can for sure hear you in this interview really well. All right, so Clay, so how long has Colvig Silver Camps been around, and where are you located?
We're going into in 2020. We're going celebrating our 50th summer, and we are in Durango, Colorado, Southwest Colorado. Southwest corner, so pretty remote. We're not on the way to anywhere, which is makes it difficult to get to. But once you're here, there's nobody here, which is great with the amount of time we spend in the backcountry.
Yeah, so I know that that's a big focus of your program. Why don't you explain the ages of the kids that come to your program, how long your sessions are, and what kinds of stuff the kids do at Colvig?
All right. We've got a full age range, 7 to 17. We break them up into smaller age ranges that that they'll be doing programming with primarily. Everybody mixes together where we eat, and that's a fun aspect of camp, is doing things with all of the different age groups. But primarily they'll be programming with their age group, which is usually a 3-year range, sometimes 2, and the youngest campers, the 2nd through 4th graders, completed. They come for 2 weeks, and the older campers are for 4 weeks. The length of time is something we believe strongly in terms of reaching the bigger goals at camp. I feel like the shorter you go, the more activity-driven it becomes. The longer you go, the more people relational-driven it grows. there's a lot more personal growth in those longer terms.
Yes, definitely. And also you do a lot of out camp things. So like for the older kids, just as an example, if they're there for 4 weeks, how much of that time are they like out on trails or kind of out of camp exploring the wilderness?
As they get older, they spend more time out of camp. So the oldest group is actually out the whole time. They're out for 26 days. That's a 10th and 11th grade group, and it's kind of an outward bound parallel. But with most campers coming in already, the hard skills are already there, so we don't have to make it as curriculum driven. We can make it more leadership and interpersonal driven, that type of experience. So they'll actually take turns being leader of the day, navigator of the day, all the different aspects of group travel. It's a smaller group of 8 to 10 with 2 guides, 2 instructors. And they're out the whole time. We meet them every 6 or 7 days to support them, and it's nice where we are. A big advantage for us with the backcountry part of the program is that we have this one of the larger national forests in Colorado, and with a lot of wilderness area in it. And we spend a lot of time in the mountains right near us, where it camps at about 8,000 feet. So we're kind of in the green area, but we also have quick access to the canyons in Utah too. So it just takes a few hours to get to, a couple hours to get to the canyons in Utah as well. So this huge range of ecological diversity to explore. We take advantage of that with these trips. So moving down a step, the 8th and 9th grade completed group would be out in 4 weeks. They would be out 3, 4, or 5 day trip every week.
Okay, so first of all, Clay, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm worried because I want to make sure that everyone can hear you. So maybe just get a little closer so we can hear you well as you describe it. Okay, so just going back, your ages are 7 to 17, and the younger kids come for 2 weeks, and the older kids come for 4 weeks. And what's the break where they start coming for 4 weeks? What age is that?
Following 5th grade.
Okay. And I'm certain you have kids starting at every age. Is there any age that's like too late to start at Colvig, or can kids come in at 11, 12, 13, 14, any age?
Any age. We're on the smaller size. And with the way our program is structured, which is very flexible and free flowing, we don't have a rigorous structure. Counselors are bringing new ideas. There are time periods for activities, but they're bringing new ideas and creating new opportunity for campers every year, so it kind of evolves. And then with that smaller size and individualizing the experience, we kind of get our return campers used to the idea that every year is new. There are new people, there are new activities, new staff, and that first 3-4 days of camp is really intentional with creating that new community for the year. So it's common for us not to be able to tell that a camper hasn't been at camp before at any age. 8th and 9th grade is when the campers are most worried about joining a new social group, and they're the most kind of welcoming then as well. And I often there'll be campers that are here, a group of campers that have been here for 7 years, and somebody new will come in, and within 3 days I can't tell that they haven't been a part of that group.
That's wonderful. What's your total number of campers there at any time?
At one time, it's 100 to 125.
Okay. And so the kids probably know everybody. Do they get to know pretty much everybody in camp pretty well?
That's a big goal, and that's kind of what our size. We're growing some right now, but our size is going to be capped by where the limitations of the experience happen, not the beds. So I kind of think of it as at the point where I don't know everybody's name and know what's going on with them in camp. That's probably where we'll cap that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And you have a lot of second generation and longtime families, I know, that just love your program. What is it that they say are the benefits or what their children gain from coming to Colvig?
It's funny. It's hard for them to nail down specifics often, but they say, and this is why it's hard for them to talk about camp, or for anybody to talk about camp, and for people to believe you, because you're using these kind of deeper big, profound statements that they find a little unbelievable, and it's hard. So it's hard to kind of get them to really listen to specifics. So the parents are saying things like, as a baseline, a lot of them say that this is the best thing that they do for their kids. Everything that they're doing for their development, this is the best thing that they do for their kids. They talk about things being bigger, but in a broader sense. Their lives are bigger is really one parents said it. A parent last year said, we talk a lot about going to people go to specialty camps a lot, and she said, and her daughter had as well, she said specialty camps are great for learning about a specialty, specialized skill. Colvig is good for your soul.
Oh, I love that. It's good for your soul. That's what all of our kids need, is more of that sort of kind of getting back to themselves. And I'm sure just all the things that you do out in nature are so helpful for kids as they just kind of get regrouped and refreshed after their busy year at school. Tell me, Clay, also, I know you have a really big horse program. What is that like, and what do kids do there?
It's they'll have the option to ride maybe 10 times over the summer, depending on the age group. There are different age groups that are more interested in it. But we have this. We're on 600 acres, and we're surrounded by the San Juan National Forest, which is another 60,000 acres, something like that. 600,000 acres. So we can hike and ride right out of camp here. So it's an opportunity to, that's another way of. There are a lot of specialized skills that happen in any camp. And there's that aspect of it, but it's another way of connecting in this sense with another entity or an animal. I've heard you use the word connecting a lot, and that's kind of the core of everything we do. Developing, there's the skill development, there's the personal development. For us, we talk a lot about it, the kind of the three realms, our inner world, our social world, and people around us, and the natural world. And a good camp program is going to help you become more aware of, connect with, be a steward of, feel more a part of all three of those things, understand those aspects of your life better, and that's going to lead to more confidence and comfort with and capability with yourself, and just kind of a general. That's how I would define happiness. If we say that we want our kids to be happy, that seems like that's the core of what will lead to happiness and success.
Yeah, definitely. I think I just want to make sure that parents heard when you said that kids go horseback riding 10 times over a session. I mean, just so you know, Clay, don't be humble about that, because there's a lot of camps where we have horses and the kids horseback ride once or twice over a session. So that's a pretty intense equestrian program. Do you do mostly, is it Western riding? What kind of riding do you do? And is it, do you go out on trails? Do you do ring work? What do you do in your horse program?
It's I guess it's not a time frame that allows for a specific progression of skills, like a list of skills. We ride Western, and most of it's trail riding. We do some ring work to get used to the horses and how to handle the horses and communicating with the horse. But a lot of it's just kind of up in the forest around us, exploring in that way. Doing that, I guess I think of it as a lot of our activities we don't do that much. Maybe that's 10 is a lot in out there at the spectrum. But all of our, because we were out of camp so much, kind of more learning this living skills, any specific camp activities, and because our activities are changing all the time too. I mean, horseback riding is a consistent, but then we've got the counselors in creating the program. The counselors have to, if they're bringing something new to camp, they have to write it up using a matrix of things that we want to see accomplished in any activity. We'll take a look at it, and once they've done that, they can go. We had a guy who grew up in Japan who was a camper, came back on staff. In Japan, he had trained as a sumo wrestler. So he came to camp and he had a 3-day activity where he taught his 8th and 9th graders a lot of the ritual and practice of sumo wrestling. And they had a tournament at the end, and they even learned how to tie the diaper with a camp blanket.
Oh my gosh, that probably was so much fun and so memorable. And oh my gosh, what boy doesn't want to wrestle? That sounds awesome.
The girls were just as into it.
Yeah. Oh, I guess true. Yeah, I shouldn't be sexist about that. That's so true. Okay, that sounds really cool. And what a unique program. And I guess your size allows you to do that and to allow for that creativity and sort of letting the kids follow their interests, and the counselors as well getting to really be leaders and establish some fun new programs. What are some of the other activities that have come up in recent years, or things that you expect might be going on this summer again?
Well, there's those kinds of things that you expect at camp that are going to happen. We've been developing our mountain bike riding program, so we've got Durango's kind of a mountain biking center. Horses, there are different target sports that campers can do. We do a lot of rock climbing. That rock climbing is a great. We have a wall, and then we have a lot of natural rock around us we can climb to. Rock climbing is a great accomplishment activity because anybody can do it, and there's there may be the top of a wall or the top of a rock, but we talk about the top being relative to what your top is. So you can challenge yourself every step of the way, and then feel that success. We have an art barn. There's a big creative aspect of camp. So there's and those things kind of evolve too, depending on that specialist. Our counselors offer all the activities, which they can do with a 3-to-1 ratio. Our counselors are also all trip leaders because we spend so much time out of camp, so that it's consistent with the staff and the campers. But we do have some specialists: the art barn coordinator, the wranglers, the climbing coordinator. We started a target sports coordinator, just because that's another easily. It's a skill where you can see success quickly. And we have a small pond swimming hole that people enjoy, monkey bridge, kayaking on it, that kind of thing. And then from those things, then there's just anything is possible with that 3-to-1 staff ratio, and the staff enjoying the idea that they get to create programming. It can be, you can have didgeridoo making. They made a Quidditch field a few years ago with the hoops. Apparently there are Muggle rules for Quidditch. You can play. We also have these kind of theme days that change every year, like a Jumanji Day or a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Day, where everybody in camp gets together and mix ages and do some big crazy adventure all day. And then we want to develop the spiritual side too, so there's some quiet time, some reflection time, processing, some ritual times, and then a lot of this happens on the trips as well. Processing is a big part of camp. You have to process everything for it to really settle in, and with that time frame, 4 weeks, you have time to process, which is something that's hard to find back in the quote real world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm guessing I know the answer to this question, but what kind of screens do your campers have with them during camp?
None.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're anti-tech. They're going to be on screens when they go home. What we're looking for is to have let them explore, provide a place where they can explore authentic relationships and communication, and hopefully take them back to their screens so that they don't fall into some of the more negative traps and
Mm-hmm.
actually hopefully add positive attributes to their social interactions for the people who didn't get to go to camp.
Sure, absolutely. So you've kind of covered a lot of things. I'm wondering if a parent is watching and listening about Colvig Silver Camps and sort of the program, what kinds of kids do you think you benefit most? Or if someone is a new family, what are some, like, what's it like for someone coming for the first time? You mentioned that everyone's pretty welcoming, but what kind of kid do you think thrives most? Is it kids who are really wanting to do that outdoor adventure thing? Like for the older kids, I'm thinking that this is a really good alternative to something like an Outward Bound, because you also have that home base and kind of the family and traditional camp aspect in addition to the kind of adventure outdoor thing. Is that accurate?
That aspect of it, I would agree with it. There's the family, the camp feel to that, and a stronger base that you don't find with those other programs. Are great for when you get older. We have campers who come here, do our program, and then do those, and come back and say they pretty consistently now they say that we were as rigorous, but we also had this family feel. In answer to the type of camper, I think what we're trying to do always, because we individualize it, is we're always trying to explore diversity of experience that will hopefully someday include diversity of culture, or more of a diversity of culture. But a lot of cultures haven't discovered camp yet. But if we're set up to celebrate differences in diversity of experience, then any diversity can come into play in camp and be comfortable, and has. So we and another kind of another dichotomy that we run into a lot is people wonder, like, is camp for extroverts or introverts or both? And we want to be addressing all opportunity. I was an introvert. I am an introvert, but I was able to learn how to be other things at camp, where you don't have that opportunity to explore those things in many arenas outside of camp anymore. And in terms of new people coming, I had a first-year camper at the end of the term tell me once that now it felt like home. Now camp felt like home. So it is really important to be welcoming. We're not going to progress the whole group, which means we're not going to progress individually if we don't have everyone along for the ride.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like a really warm and welcoming culture. So I don't think parents need to worry that even if their child is, on the quiet side, not really aware of what outdoor activities they like, they can still come and have, I'm sure it might even be more transformational for those kids who aren't used to doing any of these things to be experiencing them for the first time. That's what I imagine. What do you think?
It is. You see a lot more transition for the campers that have been here before. It settles in more, though they don't. We have people coming through camp who, because of the friends they make here, the depth of that friendship, they may not back home. They may not go outside much, or be that person who would do a 26-day backpack, but they come do it. They come do pathfinding because of this set of friends, and as they progress, through, they tell me this a lot. They begin to appreciate more and more what's going on in the backcountry, doing these harder things, challenging themselves, as they become more aware and critical of themselves and where they're headed. Critical, but
aware, like self-aware, and sort of like knowing themselves. Yeah.
And trying to define their search, they begin to see, as they get older, they begin to see more and more about why this is valuable for them. And then we have staff coming back. I had a staff person at the beginning of the summer one time. In introductions, they're asked to tell everybody why they're here. And the staff person said, because I've realized through my camp experience, I know what's good for me.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful. You know, Clay, we have a live viewer, Stephanie McDonald, who is a huge fan of you and Colvig. And she says that Colvig Silver Camp is the antidote to technology and screens. We chose Colvig Silver Camps for their focus on connecting with nature and each other. My kiddo misses Floppy. Who's Floppy?
The names change for the animals sometimes. The young kids take care of the animals. I think that's a horse.
Okay, that's what I was guessing.
We rent some of the horses. So
yeah, okay. Yeah. And then she also said, cannot say enough good things about Clay and Colvig Silver Camp. So that's really awesome just to hear from, from directly from your families. And I know you hear a lot from families about just the huge impact your program is having on these, life-changing really for these kids who are coming through your program. And I'm guessing for many of them, some of this is the very first time and the only time that they've had this chance to be really, really deep out in nature. One thing I want to make sure people heard is about your rock climbing program, because many kids have been to like a rock climbing gym or climbed on a wall. And I know you have a wall, but you actually are climbing on real rock. So it's like real rock climbing, and something that is a sport that many kids I know who come to your camp probably continue to pursue outside of Colvig. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And kind of in a general sense, just being outside once they discover it. Mm-hmm. I run into kids constantly that don't even tell me that they're here, but that end up in college in Colorado or somewhere further out away from home that where they can be outside. Rock climbing is a good example. And being on a natural rock is a lot different than being on a wall. Just because there's a whole tactile experience to it that you don't get as much of on a wall because all the holds are kind of fake.
Yeah.
That whole, it's kind of that whole. The one parent said it as we were talking. He said, "I look at these pictures of them at camp, and there's something different." And I'm analyzing this. And I realized that at camp they're free, and we talked about what that meant. It's free to explore new things, freedom from technology, freedom from negative social constructs or influences. We kind of create this artificial, idealized world that we want them to be able to take advantage of, and then they have to go back to the outside world and kind of make their way. And that aspect of it is one of the things that the parents appreciate most about camp, is that they're free here, and their core of it is they're free to be themselves, to explore themselves, and they come back with more confidence to go do that study abroad or to try that new activity or club, though they've never done that before, or to really focus on something that they've been wanting to and be able to let go of other things that they were holding on to that now don't seem as important.
Yeah, I honestly, like what you just said is the whole reason I'm doing this series, because I think I really want parents to understand that it's not just the experience of camp is not just the 2 weeks or the 4 weeks or however long the kids are there. It is the changes that happen in them are life impacting. I mean, like you said, these kids who experience the outdoors and being off their screens and just connecting so closely with this community can take that out into the world and create that kind of experience for others back in the world. So I can't even state enough how important it is that what you're doing at Colvig it's so much more than just a summer camp. I always want to clarify that people sometimes who don't know camp, people who don't know camp or have never been themselves or sent their child don't understand. They think it's just like another activity, like everything else they do. And it's so much more than that. And I think you said that really well when you talked about that freedom, that coming back to themselves, that leaving different than they arrived. I mean, that's the magic of this thing, right?
For kids a lot, it's the freedom to just to play and be kids. The younger you go, the more important that is. And then you gear activities and you gear the program for the next steps that they're taking. But even at, if they see a counselor who's all out, dressed up, face painted, their whole body's blue, this kind of stuff, if they see that this counselor can let go, this person that it's not their parents, it's a different relationship. It's someone closer in age that they can look up to, they know cares about them, but they have a different kind of connection with. If they see them modeling that ability to let go and have fun, all these things address the issues that we or that the world out there is seeing, anxiety and well, I guess a lot of it is anxiety based, but it's why you continue to see these kind of larger, deeper named therapists coming back to camp, realizing that this is what's going on.
Yes, we're getting mentioned in like every book. In fact, yesterday for my podcast, I interviewed Lisa D'Amour, who's written 2 books. One was Untangled, and the one coming out now is called Under Pressure. And they're both about raising teenage girls. Much of the stuff is also applicable to boys, but she has specialized in her practice with girls. And in both of her books, she mentioned camp. And in our interview yesterday, she talked about her older daughter who goes to a camp in Colorado and has an ongoing relationship with all her friends at camp where they really support each other all year. So like you said, here she is knowing the importance of camp and sending her own daughter for a long time each summer just because she knows the benefits. So you're right. People are catching on that some of the things that have been around for a long time, like camp, have become even more valuable now because this is more of a unique experience than it was when you think about 50 years ago when Colvig started. A lot more kids were playing outside and riding their own horses and doing all this stuff. And now very few kids are. So really, it's kind of amazing that what we do, and we've always known it's great, now is becoming on a bigger, it's becoming understood that, and the research is backing that this is a really important experience for kids.
That's what's really nice is now we use all this big love camp language, with people, and they don't hear it, but now the research is backing it up better. And I was talking to a parent last year who kind of a father came in at the end of the slideshow, and his mother went to camp. The mother went to camp. His wife went to camp. So he was, to some degree, he was just along for the ride. But he was quickly learning the value of this through his 3 kids. And we were talking about what you said, what used to happen, were these opportunities to socialize, to set goals, and try and figure yourself out how to reach them, to negotiate social situations within a group without interference from the adults, the experts, and so we kind of where the end of the conversation was kind of a realization that camp is the new neighborhood because those opportunities aren't there. Where you used to, he was talking about what he used to do in his neighborhood that allowed him to learn these things on his own to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been comparing camps to villages, which is the same idea that they're finding these blue zones in the world where people live the longest. And everyone was trying to research whether it was the Mediterranean diet or whatever. Turns out that the only thing that really is the most highly predictive of a long life is relationships and connection. And the reason that these communities, these blue zones, people are smoking, they're like 106 years old and they're smoking, but they have like neighbors visiting them. Not that I want to promote unhealthy activities. However, it's just an interesting thing that we are so focused for ourselves and our kids on all these health things, like food and exercise, when the best thing for our health is community. And so camp is it's like the old community of yesteryear in the village or whatever. So I've been thinking a lot about how much camp has in common with the small village or the old neighborhood, or, Mayberry. Remember our what was that show with Andy Griffith? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, we all just there's a country music song that I love, which I miss Mayberry, sitting on the porch. And I think of camp that way. We're all saying hi to each other. It's just like a little community neighborhood. It's so great. Hey, Clay, what else do you want to share about Colvig that I have forgotten to ask you about? Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure people know?
I think we've hit the main things that I wanted to, in terms of the value of camp in general, and then the things that distinguish us. I guess I wanted to note, we're talking about these things. We know about them. We've seen the research. For anybody who's listening, who as a parent who's kind of learning about camp, dig into these things a little bit and see why people talk about it in the terms that they do about their camp experience. And then I always just throw this challenge out there, because it's such a critical, the things that we do at camp are so critical to children's development. I throw this challenge out to people to try and talk to somebody who doesn't get camp, who doesn't know, or who says, I can't, that's too long, or that's too far away. Ask them what they want for their kids, and then answer them. And in a lot of cases, camp is going to provide those things to a more significant degree than a lot of the other opportunities out there.
Well, I think just between you and me, I'd say better than all the other opportunities out there. Because yeah, you're trying to be diplomatic, but honestly, for the most part, what's happening at camp and the growth and development that's happening for kids socially and emotionally is far greater than what happens at school or in other settings. So it's really quite awesome. Well, Clay, you are the real deal. We've been friends for a long time, and I will reflect upon seeing the one photo you posted in the month of September, I think, which was you out on a backpacking trip by yourself after camp, being out in the wilderness. So of the many camp professionals I know, and I know quite a few, I think of you as just really, you are the role model for those campers that you take out in the wilderness. You do it yourself. You're so good at it. You're so experienced, and 100% parents should trust you with their kids and sending them out into the wilderness and just discovering nature and discovering themselves. And so I'm just so happy that we met each other, and I'm so happy that your program is still around and providing the same awesome experience that you have for so many years. So thanks so much for being on the Happy Campers interview series, Clay.
Thank you, Audrey. I always like talking about camp.
Me too. We'll do it again soon. Okay, take care.
Okay, thanks, Audrey.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this Happy Campers interview bonus podcast episode. If you're interested in learning more about how you can bring home some of the magic of summer camp, I'd love for you to pick up a copy of my book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. It's available for pre-order now and comes out on May 7th. And you can find more information about it on my website by going to happycampersbook.com. To thank you for pre-ordering the book, I have a couple of fun freebies. The first of which is the first chapter, Camp Secret Number 1, Connection Comes First. I'll also send you an invitation to join my private Facebook group that's called the Happy Campers Book Club, where we'll be sharing resources, videos, and conversation about raising kids who become thriving adults. To access these freebies, simply pre-order your copy of the book and then fill out the form at happycampersbook.com. Together, we can spread the happiness of summer camp to the whole world.